In mid-May, I was part of a panel discussion that kicked off the Junior NBA's Youth Leadership Conference in Chicago. There were more than 400 people in the audience, mainly representing youth, club, and recreational basketball. Also in attendance were notables from the professional and collegiate levels and from the sports media. The panel session was tasked with discussing the culture of youth sports. On the panel with me were Dallas Mavericks coach Rick Carlisle, former NBA player Allan Houston, and SafeSport board member Julie Novak. Our moderator was ESPN sports analyst Maria Taylor. It was clear from the outset that officiating was to be a key ingredient in the discussion. As we worked our way through the first half hour, it became clear there were going to be many questions from the audience. Originally, the Q&A section was to be about 10 minutes and less in length, but we began seeing questions from the audience piling up on the confidence monitor that only those of us on the stage could see. Because of this buildup, Maria made the decision, a correct one I would say, to go to the questions sooner rather than later. As I began reviewing the first 5 or 6 questions displayed on the monitor, I was struck with the fact that the majority had to do with officiating. Specifically, the questions were about fan behavior and its effect on us. There were questions about how we officials approach games, how we deal with players and coaches. There were also questions that made a reference to the findings of the historic national survey conducted by NASO in 2017. I had come especially prepared for those. I had in the pocket of my sport coat a small white card with some facts and figures from our 2017 survey. I like to carry that because then I can accurately quote the data. Here is what I shared with the audience that morning. NASO National Survey of Sports Officials in 2017 had 17,487 responses. That is quite a number. 67% of those that responded work full-time and 20% are retired. 17% spend more than $800 annually that is not reimbursed to them. 39%, almost 40%, feel parents cause most problems of unsporting behavior. 54%, that's over half, feel coaches have the primary responsibility to improve behavior. 13% have been physically assaulted during or after a game. 13% have been physically assaulted during or after a game. 47% have felt unsafe or feared for their safety due to bad behavior. 57%, and that's almost 60%, have had to step in to break up a fight or a skirmish during a game. 64% have had to remove a spectator for bad behavior. 7% have regretted a decision to eject a coach, but 58% regretted a decision to not eject a coach. I think we've all been there. 48% started officiating because of someone asking them to do that. You might say that most of what's above is bad news in quotes, but in the context of the panel discussion, I felt that these were things the audience needed to hear and hopefully come to grips with. As the session continued, more and more questions about officiating came up. Those made me glad to have been able to bring our perspective to the gathering. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, it isn't often that the officiating perspective is requested in such gatherings. I was very glad it was in this case. Kudos to the Junior NBA and the organizers for including us. Thank you.